Hi, I'm Debbie Georgatos. Welcome to my show, America Can We Talk? Today, we'll be talking truth about Trump starving the rhinos and Democrats starving Lincoln Project. Christy Hutcherson joins me. She's the founder of Women Fighting for America, Biden's decline, and Trump's burrowers. Burrowers, that is a great word. And of course, I'll tell you why these stories matter to you. Stay tuned.
Debbie Georgatos, host of America Can We Talk, is an author, attorney, and political analyst whose mission is to inspire the American political conversation about preserving liberty in the best country on earth.
And hello again and welcome to America Can We Talk and to today's First Five. I'm Debbie Georgatos. Well, there's a little bit of a fun conversation going on between President Trump and the GOP, the RNC in Washington, D.C. And basically it started because President Trump sent a note, a formal note from his lawyers asking the GOP in Washington not to use his name, essentially, not to use his image and name, because it appeared to be endorsing. But what they send out, he's saying, it would appear that he's endorsing the candidates or the message they're sending. And they, the GOP, RNC, sent back a note, essentially through their lawyers to President Trump saying, you know, you're a public figure and we have a First Amendment right to use the image of public figures. And so right now where it kind of stands, I guess, legally or in common sense terms, you know, it seems like maybe the RNC won because they're saying, hey, we're going to use your image. But actually, President Trump won this conversation. And the reason is because what everyone is figuring out, President Trump, the RNC, the Republican caucus in the Senate, the Republican caucus in the House, the Republican Party heads all over this country are figuring out that the Trump agenda is the Republican Party agenda. Trump is, whether he never runs again or not, he is the leader of the Republican Party because of his agenda. It's not because of his personality or his tweets. It's because the agenda that President Trump set in 2016 when he ran and told America he would do, and then actually carried out and did during the course of his 4 years, is exactly the pro-America, restore America agenda that millions and millions of Americans wanted, the Americans who voted for him. So Trump, I want to say a couple important things I think about this little kerfuffle between Trump and the RNC. Number one, there was a massive effort by many elected officials in the GOP to undermine, during the time he was president, undermine President Trump, ignore what he's saying, distance themselves, kind of say, yeah, that guy's over there. We're really the party. Here we are. We're the party. And what they're all now learning is actually Trump is the party. Not the person Trump, but the agenda, the pro-America, strong borders, pro-military, pro-free markets, pro-freedom, pro-protection of all of the guarantees and promises in the Bill of Rights. That's the real Republican Party, and that's the Republican Party that Trump stands for. The RNC is trying to preside over their fiefdom, which is really their kind of uniparty, settling in Washington as a uniparty, buddying up with the other side, not really having much of an agenda, very different at all from each other, from the Democrats. And what is emerging now at the beginning of 2021 is a simple and undeniable truth that the Trump agenda is the future of the Republican Party. So now the RNC has to decide whether to play along and go along and be supportive and support his involvement, or to continue to try to isolate themselves and somehow distinguish themselves. We're not really the Trump Party, we're the Republicans. And so Trump, in response to the fact that the RNC came back to him and said, we can so use your image, we're allowed to use your image, because after all, you're a public figure, we're allowed to do it, First Amendment, blah, blah. President Trump put out a notice essentially saying, because they said they're not going to stop using his image, so he basically put out a message. This is his exact language. First of all, statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States of America. Here's his language. First sentence, no more money for rhinos. They do nothing but hurt the Republican Party and our great voting base. They will never lead us to greatness. Send your donation, this is Trump speaking, send your donation to Save America PAC at donaldjtrump.com. We will bring it all back stronger than ever before. The other point about this particular back and forth, so Trump's got his own pack. He's rocking and rolling. He's endorsing people. He's out there saying the Trump agenda is the American agenda. That's what we're doing. But for people who said when President Trump ran in 2016, he's just a bored billionaire. He can't think what else to do with his life. He's conquered all of his business conquests. He's just bored. He's not serious. We shouldn't take him seriously. This is a guy who's still a billionaire, is out of the White House, could spend his time floating around on a yacht somewhere in the Caribbean or anywhere he wanted, spend his time jetting around the world to fabulous places, and he is digging in and saying, I'm going to stand up for America. If nothing else, this whole exchange between Trump and the RNC really is showing that the President Trump that the voters came to support really was actually and genuinely behind the agenda of supporting America and the restoration and strengthening of America after decades of decline and the weakening of America. By contrast, you may have heard we talk about in this show, actually not too often because it just makes me nutty to talk about, but there was an anti-Trump agenda put together by some alleged Republicans called the Lincoln Project. And they were touting themselves as the real Republican Party, and they simply could not abide that Donald Trump had won the Republican nomination, then won the presidency, and they wanted to say, hey, we're so much better than that guy. We're the real Republicans. And so very elitist, very condescending, very critical of President Trump. And so these, Lincoln Project people obviously trying to hang on to Abraham Lincoln's name and say, we're the real Republicans, look at us. Well, they're falling apart rapidly. Prior to Election Day, they had a big meeting, or rather a small meeting at someone's home, one of the founders' homes, and they were kind of planning how they're going to become billionaires and they're going to plan the next big thing in America. They're going to be the media empire. They thought there was energy behind their Lincoln Project effort. They thought there was energy behind what they did. And so, moving forward, of course, they had one of the founders of the Lincoln Project, I think it's John Weaver, his name, John Weaver, who turns out is kind of a pervert, had been sending out suggestive, inappropriate emails to young boys and young men. I mean, clearly in trouble, embarrassed the whole Lincoln Project people. On top of that, it's turned out they all apparently knew about this guy, John Weaver, and they're kind of cool with it. But I want to say, just because things kind of finally out in history, Trump is showing himself what he really was, which was a pro-American, pro-conservative, pro-free market, pro-strong borders, pro-strong economy, all-American, Main Street, mainstream American. That's who Trump is showing himself as. And you have the Lincoln Project fizzling out, now being kind of, used to have the left-wing media like New York Times and many Democrat outlets touting endlessly how exciting it was that the Republican Party was deeply split. Look at this, you got the Lincoln Project. I mean, they're attacking Trump day and night. I mean, these people, these are the, look at what a mess the Republican Party is. And the simple fact was gelling out as I wrap up the first five is this. Trump was the real deal, whether you like him or not, and I don't care if you don't like him, what his agenda was pro-America. The Lincoln Project was all about a bunch of egos, a bunch of self-centered, unthinking, angry people who had no message, no agenda, no vision other than the message, we hate Trump and you should too. That was about all they stood for, and their project, the Lincoln Project, fizzling out into the nothingness it always was, because the fact is they weren't standing for anything except a petty hatred of the man who won the election in 2016 and who continues to lead the Republican Party. And that, my very fine friends, is today's First Five. I mentioned before the show we have a guest joining us, and I will tell you kind of fun thing. I mentioned to you yesterday that I was at a conference over the weekend in Florida, about 200 people or so, filled with leaders, a lot of them women, conservative women, who have done great things, founding organizations, projects, efforts, all designed in one way or another to preserve America, and it's on the conservative side. It isn't a partisan group, it's not a Republican thing, but just on the conservative, pro-America, we love our country side. Met a bunch of these ladies, had a great time talking to them, hearing about all they're doing, telling them what I'm doing, sharing my show. And so, anyway, that was a great thing. And what I'm going to be doing going forward is featuring some of these women. The woman who's joining us in just a moment didn't happen to be at this conference, but I connected with her through other Republican women, serious conservative leaders. The woman who's joining us is Mrs. Christy Hutcherson, and she is the founder and the lead voice of Women Fighting for America. First of all, I love that name. WFFA, Women Fighting for America. And I love it because I think there's so much effort in the American left and in the Democrat media mob to try to paint the picture that all women who are activists, everybody serious who's an activist, who's a woman, is on the left. That the left is the home of women who really, the people who stand up for women, the people who know what the fight's all about. This is the argument of the left, that they kind of own the Republican leadership voice, or they own the leadership voice for women. But the fact is, there are many wonderful leaders on the conservative side, the pro-America side, the pro-freedom side, who are women, and one of them is joining us right now is Christy Hutcherson. So without further ado, hello, Christy.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so glad you could be here. It's worked out just great, just great. So we connected through a mutual friend, but I just want to have you start with, you found this group, Foundation, Women Fighting for America. You're the founder and leader. So what is that group all about?
Well, basically, in a nutshell, we are fighting back for the soul of our nation and our country. We've lost our way. We've lost the Constitution. We've lost our values. We've become this anti-American voice to the world, and that's not who America is. So we were founded to take back our constitutional freedoms, educate women, educate American citizens, and basically teach the American people that you have a voice, that we need to arise and activate to better, for the betterment of our children and our children's children.
Well, I love that message. That sounds like something I would say about my show. I love it. So are you based in Florida? Where are you based?
I'm based in Florida, the great state of Florida.
Yeah, that's
where our governor here.
You do have a great. We were just there over the weekend. I got to tell you, as an aside, so we heard your governor speak, Governor DeSantis speak. Honestly, this is as I mentioned yesterday, a crowd of really serious conservatives, very, very active people, and heard a lot of great speakers. And Governor DeSantis of Florida knocked it out of the park. I mean, there were other. Matt Gaetz is pretty good too, who's one of your congressmen, but he knocked it out of the park. And a lot of people, after he finished speaking, were kind of turning to each other and saying, gee, that seemed kind of presidential, actually. He was really good. But back to you. So I love your agenda, your mission. So what do you do? Like, how do you, Christy, move forward this pro-America, restore America agenda?
Well, first of all, it starts with education. I just got off November 1st. I was on a 3-month bus tour across this nation. I went to 22 swing states during the election cycle. And for me, it wasn't about, and I love what you said in the opening about the agenda of President Trump, because everyone wants to make it about President Trump. And for Women Fighting for America, it was never really about who sat in the White House. What it's about is our policies and the agenda. And are you doing what's right for America? Because at the end of the day, every single politician who takes an oath to serve, their number one responsibility is to protect the sovereignty and to protect the people of the United States of America, not foreign entities, not so-called refugees or illegal aliens. It is to protect the United States first. And I think the politicians have forgotten that. They have their own agendas, globalist agendas. We could get into the weeds of that. Their money has a big issue of what drives our politicians nowadays instead of America First policies. So I love what you said about President Trump. And again, I love his policies. It's about, he's a blue collar. I always call President Trump a blue collar billionaire.
Yep.
Because he walked away from his empire to serve the people. And women would ask me all the time, how can you support a gentleman who speaks the way he does, they think he's a misogynist, all of these things. And I'm a Christian. So from a Christian woman perspective and a conservative, I don't look at what somebody says or how they say it. What I look at what they do. And that to me speaks volumes. Are you going to serve the people? And that's what President Trump did. So Women Fighting for America is about educating and activating. We're about holding the politicians who are in office currently right now and future politicians completely hold them to the fire. Are you going to serve the people or are you going to serve your self-interest? So we're also identifying and looking for leaders who we want to catapult into that arena, especially with 22 coming up, because we need to take the House back.
You're not kidding. When you say identifying leaders, are you trying to find a person in each state to be the spokesman for your group? Is that right?
We are trying to find individuals from each state to be spokesmen to set up these heart chapters, what we call heart chapters. And then inside of these heart chapters is where the hard work's gonna take place. Again, we go across the country. You've seen all of these different rallies, but what's missing, and the missing piece is this: what Women Fighting for America is going to do is when we leave out of your city, we're going to leave a team of people behind to stay behind, to help set you up, to make you successful. We're going to educate you on leadership training, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. We're going to show you how to get involved in your local communities, because really, in reality, an organic grassroots movement from the ground up, from the people up, is what's going to save the soul of this nation. It's not going to come from the top down. Don't expect your government officials to save you. It's going to take we the people to arise to save this nation.
Yeah, actually, I love that you made that point. And I remember all the different places recently I've heard this point made. And I think, I'm sad to say, I think Obama even used this line about, we are what we've been waiting for or something. But the truth is, many people in our party got so excited and appreciative of the Trump agenda, all that he did, and kind of looked to him like, okay, great, he's in charge now, so everything's okay. He's going to get us down the right path. We got concerned because the House and Senate, even when he had the GOP majority, didn't really help him very much. But he is still, President Trump, still working behind the scenes. But that embracing of responsibility by every individual man and woman in America to say, this is my generation's turn, our generation's turn. We have to defend this country. There's nobody else coming along to save us except us. I love that message. I love that message.
The fight is ours. The fight is ours. I think about our founding. I think about our founding fathers and what they would think right now. And one of the things that America has become is very complacent. I call it bubble living. If it doesn't affect our little bubble in our home, we are oblivious to what else is going on in the policies. Well, in reality is, every policy, every agenda affects our personal home. It also affects our children and our children's children. And we've seen that play out just in our educational system alone. We've lost our education system. It is weaponized. These children, I have twin 21-year-old boys, and I can't tell you numerous times, from the junior high level all the way up to the college level, of the onslaught of propaganda. And now it's even in our kindergarten system and first grade system, where they're literally brainwashing your young children. We're going to expose all of this. One of the things Women Fighting for America is doing right now, we are raising funds so we can go out on what we call a We the People Arise tour. We want to hit all 50 states. And during that time, we're going to expose and give facts of what's really been going on, from the HR1 to the H5, what's going on at the border. Just a little tease. We're getting ready to do something pretty exciting in the next week. So please stay tuned for that. We're going to blow what's going on at the border wide open. The executive orders that Biden has signed, which, by the way, I'm not sure who the master puppeteer is behind him, but these agendas are anti-American agendas. They are destroying our fabric, destroying our families and our future. And one of the things that the left wants to do is take away any possibility in 22 with this HR5. I do believe it's the HR5, to take away our equality. They put these beautiful labels on the names of this to make
bad
us
ideas.
Great. And
Yeah.
in reality, they're trying to strip the conservative voice from ever having a voice again in any election cycle. So we're going to blow this stuff out of the water, including George Soros, by the way, because he is a huge part of the demise of America. He funds a lot of this, and we're going to come after him, and we're going to expose every single organization that he has funneled money to.
That'd be a big thing and a great thing. So when you do this, I want to go back to your bus tour for a second. Were you on your bus tour? Were you kind of following along on the Trump campaign? So you got crowds. I mean, how do you generate a crowd? Were you following the Trump campaign and showing up around those events, which I think is a great idea? I don't know how you were doing that.
Well, initially, no, we weren't. From August to November, we were not. What we wanted to do, because we kind of split it off. They were doing their thing, which was amazing. But what we wanted to do is reach out to those who are on the fence. Trump rallies are going to draw the conservative, the Trumpers, all of that. But what was lacking and what was missing with Women Fighting for America, what we thought was, let's go out and let's educate, let's keep this neutral, because in reality, we're all Americans. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you believe, your political views. We need to draw in and educate everyone on really what's going on. So we were neutral. So we would go out on the road to all of these different swing states and educate on the policies and what the differences were. And we found it to be very successful.
I love that idea. And, it's funny, I was talking yesterday with someone in a conference call later in the day after my show about all these groups are out there. There are people who are totally focused on pro-life, totally focused on immigration and border security, totally focused on protecting the military, all these groups out there. And it seems like there needs to be a rising up of the American people against the entire radical left that's taking control of our country. So are you trying to connect with other groups, or you're just and motivate them? Are you trying to lock arms in a way, or is that not part of your plan?
No, Women Fighting for America, one of the things when we started this, again, I told you I was a Christian, we need unity. One of the things, I've studied the left, I've studied what they've done and why they're successful. And one of the reasons why both the church, the conservatives, all of these organizations have not been able to win the final battle, or the battle, so to speak, is because we do not unite. We like to play in our little silos. We have got to stop that mentality. We need to come together. Think about how powerful this would be if all of us leaders across the nation would come together with these different organizations and get one strategy, one voice, one light, one truth to save America. We, the people, coming after the onslaught of this communist, leftist, Marxist agenda. It would be pretty powerful. So I'm going to ask right now, I'm going to put out a call to every single organization from the Charlie Kirks and the Candace Owens and all of these influencers across the nation. If we can come together, do a big stadium events across this nation and expose and educate and activate. There's huge power in that, and show unity. That's what the world is waiting for. That's what America needs.
I couldn't agree more. And actually, among the many organizations that exist, there has been in the past a siloing. That's fine that you use that word. That's the word I always use, a siloing, where there's just, we stand for this and we're doing this and it's our agenda. And so we don't really mix with the agenda of some other entity. But the power of the 75 million or 80 million, whatever number of voters there were for President Trump in 2020, the idea of the power of those people locking arms under the auspices of numerous organizations coming together, I think that'd be a powerful message, both, I think, in terms of the message to the GOP in Washington that actually America is pretty united. You might, some of you people in Congress may not like Trump too well, but we love him and we love the agenda. And the message to them is you got to do this agenda. So I love that concept. So I think your website, I believe I have, is womenfightingforamerica.com. Is that right? Womenfightingforamerica.com?
Yes.
So, okay. Is there any other way people can get a hold of you, contact you to find out more about what you're doing?
Sure, they can go on Facebook. They can private message me. I am very accessible. I walked away from everything because, again, I'm a mom. I was a businesswoman. I've been dabbled in politics. I was super delegate for the state of Florida. So I understand what's at risk and what's at stake. And we, the people, need to lock arms right now more than ever to come together. And I would love to have anybody who wants to share the platform, who wants to come on this tour with us, who wants to speak and educate. You are more than welcome to join us in this movement, because it's going to take everybody together to save America.
Amen to that. Couldn't have said it better myself. It's how I wrap up the show almost every day. So I'm so grateful it turned out you're available. We're speaking with Christy Hutcherson. She is the founder, lead voice of Women Fighting for America. And again, for our happy listeners, womenfightingforamerica.com. Check it out. Check her out. And Christy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Debbie, for having me.
Great to see you. Okay, folks, this is somebody to follow. I tell you, I mentioned during that interview that I was on the phone yesterday after my show with another group that was kind of making the same point, that they're trying to pull together conservative groups, and it happened to be in Florida, where this lady is, in Florida, but just saying all of these conservative groups have got to come together because, you have the little... For several reasons. One is you start to realize how popular basic pro-America ideas are. When you're part of one little group and you think, oh, well, there's 30 of us, we meet once a week or once a month, we do this or that. we start to realize the power of the movement, the pro-America movement that Trump really started and fomented during his presidency, you realize you're not alone. Most of America is with you. The vast majority of voting America is with you. And you start to also have more power in order to get the message to Washington that we actually expect you to make these changes. And you heard Christy mention this other group, which I think they're coming on with me next week, the group I was talking to yesterday, the idea that focusing on races all the way from, local school board, city council, county government, state senator, state representative, all these positions, there has to be that pro-America, pro-freedom fire and passion brought to bear on every race there is in order to save this precious country. So glad she happened to be available. That was very fun. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about today, it's an actually interesting thing where we are, Biden's decline. I see media that will display various pieces of evidence about President Biden's mental decline, which was available for everyone to see, well known, long before the election of 2020. So I want to talk about, though, several aspects of it and just kind of step back from it. Just think of yourself. If you were among the top gurus of the Democrat Party, you want to win back the White House. After the 4 years of Trump, you can see, Trump had his first term, Trump's running again. You want to win back the White House. And the parade of characters who chose to run were, and I actually have lost track of the number, 16, whatever it was, but a large number of well-known, actually most of them very well-known nationally, Democrats, and they were, across the board, very radically left. They weren't, Bernie Sanders, as I say, he's one of the few honest leftists in America. He just says, yeah, I'm a socialist. Honestly, he's a communist. That's okay. That's who he is. But he's honest about it. But most of the left has been trying for numerous years to pretend that they're in Main Street America. They're just like your grandpa's Democrat Party, when the fact is the Democrat Party has embraced the Marxist agenda. We are watching the Marxist takeover of America. So all these candidates show up, and what is happening very quickly, they're starting to see is nobody, the Democrat leadership is noticing, nobody among these 16 or 17 Democrat candidates is garnering any passion. No one's got people in any way able to contrast with the energy that President Trump's pro-America message brought to the voters in America. So you got these people lined up. They're all in somewhere along the continuum of, communist Bernie, radical leftist Marxist, fairly socialist, all of them fell in that realm. And actually, including Biden, as we talked about in the show before, if you didn't know these things about him, Biden has a long history of direct support by the communist element in China and in Russia. So Biden was not some moderate, but he looked like a moderate. He looked, if you didn't pay close attention, to Democrat voters across this country who the party could see the voting population in America, that the Democrats need, the voting base, were not interested in Bernie Sanders. He has a lot of energy among a silo of Democrats who are right down the socialist path with him, but for the most part, Sanders wasn't going to win the national election, and they could see that, and Sanders wasn't even really winning outright, wasn't doing a fabulous job garnering all of even the Democrat base. So Democrats looking around saying, what are we going to do? And you've got Joe Biden. He actually looks presidential. I don't even like that term because who's to say who looks presidential? But, silver-haired, resume telling you he served in the Senate for, 150 years. Before that, he was a simple guy, nice guy, sad story in his background because his first wife perished in a car accident, and he's got children and he's got grandchildren. I mean, the whole image thing was a positive, although I could question that too. I could poke holes in that too. But the Democrat Party decided that this guy was the most palatable of all their candidates. He was the one that the long-term Democrat voting base, who wants nothing to do with Marxism, nothing to do with socialism, nothing to do with communism, the voters in the Democrat Party would get behind this guy because he kind of looks the part. And he's familiar, and he's comfortable, and he's actually been a vice president. I mean, the resume is pretty solid in their view. But those same people who came to that calculation, who decided, this is probably our best shot at defeating Trump. This guy is probably our best shot, this Biden guy, because after all, resume and looks like the part, blah, blah, blah. But all of those people, they're around him enough to know that he was already in a serious stage of mental decline. People watched it throughout the campaign. He barely could speak. He barely campaigned. He barely could get out. He had many times in which he could not construct a sentence or could not follow where he was. And so I want to, I'm bringing this up not to mock his mental condition. I have actually watched relatives, very senior relatives in my family, decline under Alzheimer's, suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia. It is sad. It is ugly. It's horrible to watch. And family members who love their relative who is going through the experience of dementia normally move to protect that person. They try to protect the person with dementia because they don't want him or her to be harmed, to be embarrassed, to look foolish, to say foolish things. They try to protect them. This is what families do. I could tell you stories, but I won't get off on that. Sticking to Biden. But the exact opposite dynamic took place than the normal, loving reaction in the case of Biden running for president. He was seen by the Democrat Party as their best and maybe only hope of defeating Trump. And his wife, spending time with him every day, clearly the most fully aware of his mental decline, was right on board with letting him run. I mean, I have to tell you, I have seen in other cases family members stepping up, saying, Dad, Mom, you can't do this. You can't handle this. You've got to step back. But, for Dr. Jill Biden, this was her chance to be the First Lady. And she was going to let it go and pretend, along with the media and the Democrat Party, that Joe was a clear thinker, that he had his mental faculties intact. She was willing to do this. I think that is somewhere in the realm of elder abuse. It's most certainly cruel. And in case you don't think that other people see this, the Democrats in Congress, there were 24, I think it was, three dozen House Democrats signed a letter sent to the White House urging that President Biden be willing to give up the sole authority to launch nuclear weapons. Now, you likely know the president of this country, as wherever they go, they always have someone with him with the nuclear codes, ready in case America is attacked, ready in case you have to respond immediately to some huge military threat. So the person follows around the president with the nuclear codes in place, and so that person follows Biden around. Great concern on the part of 3 Democrat members of the U.S. House saying, you know what, it's not such a swell idea that Biden has these nuclear codes. I don't think so. We shouldn't be doing this. So anyway, they sent a letter to the White House saying, we don't think it's such a swell idea. Can someone relieve him of those codes? And they sent an idea like, we could offer some other ideas, some alternatives to sole nuclear authority, such as requiring the Vice President and the House Speaker to agree with a launch order from the President before it is executed. Now, if you can't figure out that letter is an admission to the American people, a calculated admission to the American people that they don't trust Joe Biden's mental faculties. They don't trust this guy to run this country. They're very worried about him making a decision in his mental haze that may allow him to use the nuclear codes. So they're trying to say, hey, wait a minute, let's get some other people involved in this. Now, I do remember Democrats making these kind of points, I think back in the Reagan era, definitely in the Trump era. But when the Democrats were making these points before, they were attacking a Republican they didn't like. This is the Democrats in Congress attacking their own president. And they would say not attacking. They try to couch it in, we're just, trying to use wisdom and expand, the number of people involved in the decision, just trying to be careful. They're trying to spin it as this is no big deal. People, this is a huge deal. This is a huge deal that Democrats would put this out publicly saying, hey, America, we're so concerned about this guy who is, currently has control of nuclear codes, that we're actually thinking about, trying to get back control from him. So very much of an admission by people around him that they have he has no idea what's going on. I want to play one clip just to point out to you. We could spend the rest of this show and tomorrow's show playing clips that signify or show President Biden's mental decline. I want to play just as one clip. Actually, I think there are two. But the first one, I think I sent to Matt. Yeah, clip one. This is Biden as he is in a ceremony where he has nominated new generals, including 2 women, to be generals.
So I want to thank you both, and I want to thank the former general. I keep calling him general, but the guy who runs that outfit over there. I want to make sure we thank the secretary for all he's done to try to implement what we've just talked about and for recommending these 2 women for promotion. Thank you all. May God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.
Okay, now watch him. Keep him on. Watch him. Can't figure out where to go. Can't figure out what he's supposed to do. Standing there staring. Rambling. Finally, she's like, okay, let's go, buddy. Okay, do you understand that President Biden, with notes in front of him on a podium, recognizing he's on television, could not think of the word Pentagon? Couldn't think of the word Pentagon. He talked about it as that, that outfit over there, the Pentagon. Couldn't think of the title Secretary of Defense, who is a cabinet member, or a cabinet title, Secretary of Defense. Couldn't think of the name. He finally got around to saying secretary. He goes, he's talking about Lloyd Austin, but he says the former general, keep calling him general, 5 O's in a row, the guy who runs that outfit over there. This is the President of the United States. And I want to just say why I want to do this segment. It's not really because I don't want to make fun of President Biden. I think it is a disgrace that his wife, the Democrat Party leadership, the entire cabal surrounding him, allowed him to go forward in his clearly deficient mental condition and take the office and serve as president when he is not able to do that. He hasn't been able for a long time. He wasn't able to perform those functions when he ran in 2020. You can read numerous articles. In fact, they're on our website, americacanwetalk.org. You can go to our website on the homepage, under shows, drop down, list of links. I have a link to numerous articles where they list example after example after example of the fact that he barely showed up in the entire election of 2020, in the campaign of 2020. Often had times you couldn't remember where he was, what day it was, what office he was running for. And he's standing there, can't think of the name Pentagon, the word Pentagon, or the title of one of his cabinet members, Secretary of Defense, or the guy's name. And so I want you to think about what that says about the Democrat Party. They, the Marxist Democrat Party, now ruling our country, now controlling the White House, the Senate, and the House, so desperately wanted their power back, so desperately wanted to continue their Marxist agenda, that they were willing to seize on and enable the election of a guy who is completely confused. He has moments of lucidity. I mean, I have been around Alzheimer's patients, very senior people who, there's a moment or two of lucidity and they'll remember your name or they'll remember something from 30 years ago. But it's inconsistent coherence, not clear what's going on. And the left in this country was so determined to seize power again, so determined to be the ones running this country, they were perfectly willing to put a guy in office with this clear mental decline, because to them, they could manage around it. They wanted to get, in terms of his choice of vice president, which I'm sure was dictated to him by the party, you got to get Kamala Harris. And the reason they want her, they thought she'd be the most palatable to many of their silo voters, of their hyphenated voters, but also because she's so far left. She's a radical Marxist herself. And she'd be the one running things. If they just could, and they'll ease Joe, I don't know how long it's going to take them, but they'll ease him out of office, and then he will be out, and she will be running this country. I want to play one other clip and comment about this. And the reason I'm playing this one is, even the everyone around him, everyone functioning around President Biden is playing along in this charade that he is mentally capable of being president. So he's in the White House, he's giving remarks, and this is just one example. There are more than this available. I'm going to play just this one. This is Biden in the White House.
Thank you. And I'm happy to take questions if that's what I'm supposed to do, Nance, whatever you want me to do.
Okay, you see what happened? The White House, the guy running the camera in the White House, been told, do not let this man take questions. There are other similar clips where he says, I'll take questions, and they cut off the feed. Now, I noticed the Washington Post, scurrying to defend the Biden administration, put a story out there saying, oh, that's ridiculous. That's a false, fake news by the conservatives, because after that feed was cut, Biden apparently did take questions. I don't know if he did or he didn't, but the decision has been made. He can't take questions on camera. He can't take questions where everyone listening is going to hear the question, hear his answer, and realize he's making no sense, or worry if he can understand the question, worry if he will make sense. I really don't like doing this segment, but why I'm doing it, and to wrap it up, is it's not to make fun of Biden, but is to point out how radically determined today's Marxist Democrat Party was to win power again. So determined that they would prop up someone who can't figure out what he's running for, what day it is, what he's saying, goes to bed early, puts a lid on it, all sorts of days, way earlier than everybody else, didn't campaign to start with. This is a fake candidate, a fake president being orchestrated, manipulated by the many strings being pulled behind the scenes, largely by Obama, certainly by George Soros also, but probably by Obama, who figured Joe is the most palatable for the American voter to get behind. And once he's in, of course, his power and authority be removed. And then the leftists, can go on with their leftist takeover of America. Sad segment, but I didn't want to fail to go into it. Okay, one of the quick stories I can tell you, just kind of interesting. So back when President Obama was leaving office and didn't know yet who was going to win, but and you remember we talked about in the show how he actually Obama and his team hired Patrick Byrne to try to set up Hillary Clinton to have her accept a bribe from a foreign country. And Patrick Byrne has told this story, openly tells it. It's on his blog, deepcapture.com. But Patrick Byrne, was hired by the Obama team to try to get Hillary Clinton to accept a bribe from a foreign country, with the goal of having that foreign country, once she accepted the bribe, that Obama could then control Hillary Clinton. He can control her. He can go to her and say, hey, Hillary, I know about the bribe. I know you accepted blah, blah, blah amount of money from whatever country it is. Here's what you're going to do. And Obama could therefore dictate to Hillary her agenda. He is going to tell her who she's going to make friends with and what kind of legislation she's going to pass, what she's going to do, because she has no choice, because they're able to control her because they know about the bribe she took. This was concocted by the Obama administration, assuming that Hillary was going to win. And the other thing that the Obama administration did prior to Election Day, and then more after Election Day, was cook up this plan, which he's not the first one, to be fair. Obama's not the first one. Other presidents did it. But the term was even used back in 2016 that Obama's people were putting in place after his term. They're putting in, and they use the expression, they're burrowing them in. Burrowing, like an animal will burrow in underground or burrow in to make a little enclosure. The Obama team decided that they were going to put people they wanted to do their agenda inside various high-level positions in Washington. Even when they thought Hillary was going to win, they were doing this, putting people inside Department of Defense, Justice, got to be FBI, all sorts of places, Obama loyalists who will do the Obama agenda. And the thing they had to do is people in Washington can be political appointees. So you're appointed by the president, it's a political appointee, and when the president's out, you're out because you're an appointee. That's your job is gone because the president who appointed you is no longer in office. But they're also career civil service employees. Career civil service employees whose job security is much greater than a political appointee. Political appointees are just gone when they're gone. These civil service employees are protected by the civil service laws. So Obama moved, and there were stories about it out even in October of 2016, before the election occurred, that were pointing out that Obama was shifting or moving people from political appointee status into employment status. And so he's therefore carrying out, he's figuring they're going to be there just to control Hillary. Little did he know, he really wanted them, Obama really wanted them to be able to control and dictate and impact the Trump presidency. So now here we are in 2021, we have the Biden administration in, and the left-wing media there's a story in The Hill. The Hill is pointing out, which is that if you ever go to thehill.com, I think it is, yeah, it's a left-wing, but they have interesting stories and a few conservative pieces. But anyway, thehill.com is reporting, as though it's big news, dozens of Trump appointees burrow into the Biden government, and pointing out that Trump did the same thing as he's leaving, is moving some people from career appointees, from appointee status to career civil service, putting them under the protection of the civil service laws, which makes it almost impossible to fire them. So Trump did to Biden what Obama did to Trump, putting people in place, trying to hold on to your agenda and make sure your agenda is protected. So the group called Accountable.us, Accountable.us is trying to wave the flag of warning, wave the, hey, everybody wake up here, because it turns out Trump is putting some people, burrowing them into the Biden government. And so they're running through the people they're saying were, put there by Trump to kind of perpetuate and protect the Trump agenda. And here they are in the Biden administration, and they should, obviously the implication is they should be out. They should be gone because they don't belong in the Biden administration. All I really want to say about that is, wouldn't life have been better if back when President Trump won in 2016, that there had been elected Republicans who understand this process, who knew exactly what Obama would have been doing, who may have seen it in previous administrations, if they had approached him and said, hey, President Trump, you've got a lot of enemies built into your government. You have a lot of people who are going to spend 4 years trying to undermine your agenda in every conceivable way. These people will be in the National Security Council. They're going to be at the Department of Justice. They're going to be in the Department of Defense. They're going to be in the FBI, Department of Labor. You're going to have Obama agenda people fighting your agenda from the day you take the oath of office. And even though I think some people gave President Trump a little bit of a heads up, you better watch out for this guy, you better be concerned about this guy, a little bit of a heads up, Trump didn't have the savvy, and it's amazing because he's so savvy in other things, he didn't have either the political roots, the political connections, or just the people who would come in behind him and to support him as he became president to say, you know what, you have a serious problem. So you had, essentially, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax perpetrated and perpetuated by the Obama holdovers inside the Department of Justice, inside the FBI. You have these people, long-term agenda. They think, many of these people think, they're going to long outlast whoever the recent, resident is at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. These career people, they're there for life. They really run the country. This goofy guy or woman who's become president, they're not really in charge. We're in charge. But Trump didn't have that. And so what happened in the Trump administration for 4 years, you had, of course, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax. You had numerous other people undermining his agenda, and Trump never really even sure who it was who was on his team. You had people hired, people even responsible to do the hiring at the White House, who are more of the mindset of the Obama era mentality. So they're bringing in people, the screening they will do, bring in people to the White House who are on to the Obama agenda much more than the Trump agenda. I mean, Reince Priebus is just one example, an establishment Republican. I mean, not a Democrat, or at least not a Democrat as to how he identifies himself, but a clearly establishment Republican undermining President Trump. And in his case, in Trump's case, it was particularly stark, because he didn't run as an establishment Republican. He didn't need establishment Republicans surrounding him in the White House and all these other positions of authority. In fact, Trump had, of course, the leftists still in place because Obama put them there, and he's got the GOP establishment also fighting him, fighting Trump against his agenda, trying to pretend on screen that they're really his supporters, but undermining his agenda. So Trump had both the Obama holdovers and the establishment holdovers and the establishment suggestions of new people to come in and serve. All those people were not on board with the Trump agenda. Trump had a tiny army of people who actually believed in him and what he was standing for, helping him get through those 4 years. And I wanted to float this story just to say how terribly sad it is for America that we did not have an accountable.us group taking Trump's side back in 2016. I could talk more about that. I'm going to turn to do my closing for the show. What I always do is tell you why the stories we talked about today matter to you. But I want to mention a couple of things. Number one, if you're wondering where our weekly newsletter is, it didn't get out this week because Google shut it down. So social media shut down my newsletter. We're going to fix that. We'll get them out again soon. Continue to subscribe to the newsletter. It is coming back. If you go to our website, americacanwetalk.org, on the home page, you can hit subscribe. That gets you the weekly newsletter. It is free. It comes once a week, and I never share that list with anybody. I do use that to send you a once weekly, usually Friday email that links to all the past interviews and show topics of the week. So that's you can do on the homepage. Also on our homepage on americacanwetalk.org, you can hit the donate button. This show is entirely supported by listeners. I have never been paid 1 penny to do this show. I started doing it in 2014. I do this show out of passionate love for America, the desire to preserve America, to speak up for America. If you're able to make a one-time or recurring donation to keep this show rolling, I would so appreciate that. Again, on our website, americacanwetalk.org, and on that homepage, you hit the donate button, one-time or recurring. In addition to that, we have our membership effort coming up. Our membership is going to be simply, it's very simple. It involves one show a week starting in April. So one show a week, which is a Thursday show, will be for members only. The only place you'll be able to listen to it is on our website, americacanwetalk.org. So on Thursdays, members only, you go to the website and you get in and you watch the show on the website. So it's members only on Thursdays. It is with sometimes or often unique and interesting guests, different studio, but the most important difference is that is more of a conversation between you and me, or you and our guests and me. It's a conversation, it's a back and forth, it's a Q&A. We have numerous ways that you can submit questions before the show. If you're a member, you can submit questions during the show. And you'll be able to submit questions by using our sign up, our phone, our raindrop technology that we have. And if you've not done this before, maybe Matt the Wonderful can find this while I'm telling you about it. But you go to your phone, and the way you would send a text message, on the to line, you put in 53445, 53445. And so that's in the to line. And on the bottom, in the message section, just put the word America. That's all you have to do, and you'll be signed up in the America Can We Talk family of texting. It's a private texting group, just us. I do not inundate. In fact, I haven't even sent one text message out to the group, but that's one way you'll be able to submit questions for the membership thing. I'm going to membership, my friends, simply because I want to be able to keep doing this show without advertisements, without interruption, keep up this conversation about preserving America. You'll see next week on our website, americacanwetalk.org, we'll have a blog post up with the detail of everything that I'm saying, because it might be hard to follow. It'll tell you about, what the newsletter is about, what membership is about, and the membership charge. You pay for the membership on the website, americacanwetalk.org, and it is only $5 a month or $50 a year. And so it's for the Thursday, we'll have a show almost every Thursday, and just like we always do almost every Thursday, and it'll be private, it'll be just our conversation. It's a little studio where if you're in the Dallas area, you can even be in the audience. The seating, I think, is 10 or 12 people, so it's a small little group, but it is a great way to just be part of the America Can We Talk family. So, at the close of every show, I tell you why the stories we talked about today matter to you. So we started our show today talking about Trump starves the rhinos and Dems starve the Lincoln Project. Trump denies the GOP's right to use photos for fundraising purposes. GOP pushes back for the right to use photos of a public figure. And Trump, therefore, then urges people to go ahead and donate to his PAC instead. But the back and forth obscures this reality. Trump and the MAGA agenda are the future of the GOP. That is where the money and the energy is. And that's why Rhino Senator Blunt, I didn't even get to him, he's retiring. And that's why there's speculation about McConnell retiring, because Rhino Republicans are realizing the party's energy is not with them. Lincoln Project, full of hate Trumpers, turns out to be corrupt and perverted, taking in millions from liberals of all kinds, may be headed for bankruptcy. Hatred and jealousy toward Trump turns out not to be a foundation for anything lasting. No one disputes that 75 million Americans voted for Trump. The GOP cannot survive without embracing the MAGA agenda. The Lincoln Project has no purpose if there's no President Trump to hate. And on Biden's decline, becoming impossible not to notice and impossible for the Democrats and mainstream media to hide Biden's obvious mental decline. An ugly daily reminder of the left's lust for power. Everyone in the Democrat power circles knew Biden was not mentally fit long before the election. But everyone agreed Biden is the only candidate who could be sold as moderate. An entire political party and his power structure played along, propping up a man with dementia as a legitimate candidate for President of the United States and Commander-in-Chief. Still propping him up. He is not capable of all the executive orders and the bombing decisions, which leads to the question, who is running the White House? Who is really the president? This is extremely dangerous for America and the world. If all Americans knew fully of Biden's condition before the election, would 80 million have voted for him? Which I don't think happened. Would even 50 million have voted for him? And the final on Trump's burrowers. Leftists are out in force through accountable.us to press for termination of any Trump appointees still remaining burrowing in government positions. Yet Obama acted unilaterally before Trump took office to move many of his political appointees into career government employee positions because they are protected by civil service laws. Trump's entire term was hamstrung by hangers-on from the Obama administration constantly undermining the MAGA policies. There was never a GOP equivalent to accountable.us. Too few of the established GOP in D.C. supported Trump or helped him see the Obama holdover problem. The GOP is now realizing they'll have to embrace the MAGA agenda or die. And that, my friends, is America Can We Talk for today. Thank you so much for tuning in every Monday through Thursday at 3 p.m. Central Time to America Can We Talk, where I always talk truth about America because America matters. And I'll talk to you next time.
America Can We Talk? Truth about America.